The first bill that we're going to hear in Financial Institutions and Insurance, Wednesday, February 26th, is House Bill 2045. Eileen, would you like to give us a briefing on that bill? Delighted? Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 2045 is the House version of our Senate Bill 20. This is the board bill, and the bill would grant the commissioner the ability to decrease the number of board members serving on the boards for which the commissioner has appointing authority. As you know, the bill stipulates that the board members on the effective boards who are appointed and serving as of July 1st of 2025 would have their terms end on December 31st of 2025 this year. The commissioner would appoint a new board whose three-year terms would then begin on January 1st of next year. These boards would have the same powers, duties, and functions as the old board, but new board members would be removable for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance. And the bill also removes a requirement for the Committee on Surety Bonds and Insurance to meet at least once per month, and goes to state that the meetings will remain at the call of the chair. The House Committee on Insurance passed the bill out of committee with no amendments, and the House Committee of the Whole passed the bill unanimously, on a vote of 104 to 10 on February 7th. And with that, Madam Chair, I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee, do you have any questions of the reviser? Senator Francisco?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe we had no amendments on the Senate bill.
On the Senate bill, correct.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Eileen. All right, our first proponent testimony is Kyle Strothman, Kansas Department of Insurance. Kyle, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Kyle Strothman, the Kansas Department of Insurance. I thank Eileen for that description, and really, you all have heard this bill before, so I really don't have a whole lot to add to the testimony and would just stand for questions, Madam Chair, if that's all right.
Very good. Committee, we did hear this pretty recently. Senator Fack.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and Kyle, thank you for your short presentation. I was wondering, as you reduce this, the insurance commissioner is the one that appoints people to these boards, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Does she have very many applications? Does she have trouble getting applications for these things?
So that is really kind of the point of what we're trying to solve here. It's not necessarily, I guess, a problem of getting applications, but we do have currently, I think, 7 vacancies on these boards that as they sit currently. So finding somebody that has the requisite experience and then just wants to serve on these boards is the biggest issue that we're trying to solve here.
Okay, so we're looking for quality versus quantity here. So
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions for Kyle? Okay. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
There were no neutral or opponent testimonies on this. So at this time, I will close the hearing on House Bill 2045. Okay. Committee, we are going to open the hearing on House Bill 2044. Eileen, will you want to brief us on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. House Bill 2044 is the House version of our Senate Bill 21. House Bill 2044 requires that the administrator, third-party administrators maintain a separate fiduciary account for each payer and that there be no commingling of funds between each payer and other funds held by or collected on behalf of other payers. The bill also requires that an administrator immediately disclose to the commissioner any bankruptcy petition filed by or on behalf of the administrator pursuant to Chapter 11 or Chapter 9 of the U.S. Bankruptcy Code. The House Committee on Insurance passed the bill out of committee with no amendments, and the bill passed the House Committee of the Whole on a vote of 105 to 9, also on February 7th, and I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Did you say there were no amendments?
From the House Insurance Committee.
From the House Insurance Committee.
Right.
Thank you.
I believe this is the bill that we attempted to define immediately a little bit more clearly.
Yes, we did. Committee, any questions for Eileen? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Eileen. Our first proponent is Eric Turk, Kansas Insurance Department. Eric, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Eric Turek with the Kansas Department of Insurance. Pleased to speak in support of House Bill 2044. Again, this does look familiar to you, and I will reiterate with what the revisor said. This did pass the House. It was on the consent calendar. The Senate version passed 40-0. That's Senate Bill 21, and the revisor is correct. The senator from Johnson did clarify the term immediately on page 2 at the end of the bill. Well, it struck immediately and added at such time of the filing is at the time such filing is made. That's when the TPA, should they go bankrupt, they must inform the department. And that amendment was made in Senate Bill 21, not this bill particularly. Last item, just to reiterate what the revisor already stated, but should this bill pass, individual clients or payers of the TPA, they would have to, those funds of theirs deposited with the TPA would have to be separate and in separate fiduciary accounts. Happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Eric. Committee, do you have any questions regarding this bill? Okay. Thank you, Eric. There were no opponents. There were no neutrals. So if there are no questions, we'll go ahead and close the hearing then on House Bill 2044. We are moving right along. So at this time, I'm going to open the hearing on House Bill 2042. You have a folder, and this will sound a little bit familiar to you as well. Eileen, would you want to give us the overview real quickly?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. House Bill 2042 is the House version of our Senate Bill 22. House Bill 22 would no longer require that the audit report submitted to the I'm about to say consumer, but no, it's commissioner, would only require that the report be available for inspection upon request instead of being sent to the commissioner annually. The bill would also standardize the amount of surety bonds or irrevocable letters of credit that title insurance agents must file, and it standardizes that amount at $100,000. Finally, the bill would eliminate the controlled business exception for real estate transactions in counties with populations less than 10,000 individuals. The House Committee on Insurance amended the bill to make the effective date January 1st of 2026. This committee made the same amendment to Senate Bill 22. And the House Committee of the Whole passed the bill on February 7th on a vote of 103-8. And I can stand for questions.
Committee questions of Eileen? Thank you, Eileen. So we have proponent testimony today from Kyle Strothman. Again, would you like to come up, Kyle, Kansas Insurance Department?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kyle Strothman again. As Eileen said, this is a bill you all have heard before in Senate Bill 22. So again, I'll keep my remarks brief and really just stand for questions.
Committee, do you have any questions? Senator Fagg?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I save my questions for you, Kyle. So,
Appreciate that.
the $100,000 surety bond. How did they set the $100,000?
It's set by statute. I don't beyond the reasoning
Any
for that.
reasoning why it's not 50 or $250,000? I just wondered what the thought process was. Just because it's statute and that's the way it is.
Yeah, again, I'd have to refer to when they first set those, when they first passed this. I wouldn't comment on what the reasoning was for that.
That might be something you have a little conversation. If that was set a long time ago, is that something we need to refresh? 100,000 doesn't cover too much. That's where I'm going with that.
Sure.
Good feedback. Any other questions of Kyle? Okay, thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
There were no, there was written proponent testimony. That was Ashley Garr, who's the co-chair of the Kansas Land and Title Association. It should be in your folder. And then we had no opponent testimony. We had no neutral testimony. So at this time, I'm going to close the hearing on 2042. So this is maybe the fastest 3 hearings we've ever had. So, but that's going to give you a little bit of time. We just got some House bills over, and so we're going to be not meeting on Monday, but we will meet Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we'll do much the same thing. We're going to do as many hearings as we can, and we'll start working bills if possible, we will have a planning meeting on Monday, Marcy, at 9:30, planning meeting. So we will start working these bills, and, we can move through these pretty fast. We do have some bills we've never heard coming over from the House that will take a little bit longer for the hearing. There's a Capers bill, there's a bank bill, a PMIB modernization bill, and we've not heard that yet. So that will take a little bit more time. But if we can clear most of these off our schedule, do our hearings, work the bills, get them across that line, then we've got more time to devote to the topics we haven't heard yet. So at that, thank you, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and meeting adjourned.